research sites? Because it's so high up there. I can't imagine there are many houses.
I don't think there's actually houses up there, but I'm curious. Now that you mentioned, I wonder if any of the scientists actually stay up there, like kind of like Mount Washington.
Sure.
They go up there for a month and they just stay there, because I would imagine a lot of these are astronomers, and so they probably work overnight. So it's probably a good idea for them just to stay up there. And if you think about it, if you're into telescopes and astronomy, this is like the best place to be, because near the equator, just to peel back some science, the atmosphere is thinner right near the equator, and you're higher up, so you're looking through the least amount of atmosphere, and because you're so isolated, there's no light pollution, there's very few pollution in general, so you have some of the most pristine skies to look and observe our outer space in our solar system. So it is a really cool. There's probably I think 15 telescopes up there. It's crazy, from all over the world renowned telescopes up there. So I'm curious now too. I'm wondering if somebody actually stays up there. I'm guessing it's like Antarctica, where the scientists go there and stay for a couple months and then they leave. Speaking of astronomy, before we leave you, I want to thanks James for bringing this up. Our tower cam. If you guys, this is everybody, just not us here in Charlotte, but if you want to go out and look, Jupiter is nice and bright in the east sky tonight, Tim. It's in opposition, and it's showing up really well on our cameras. I don't know if any of your cameras have picked it up, but there's a view of it, that big bright orb. It is not a UFO. It is actually Jupiter. And what does opposition mean? It's the closest and brightest it's going to be through the entire year this week. So if you want to check it out, this is a good time to go do it.
Always neat to see. It's kind of just one of those things. You could be walking out of the grocery store and say, well, that's really bright. I wonder what that is. And there are so many cool apps nowadays. You don't need to be a space geek or an astronomy geek to kind of understand these. So I'd really recommend downloading, whether it be Skyview free or Night Sky, or there's so many that you can do.
Yeah.
And you just hold the phone up to the sky nowadays, that if you haven't checked in with Brad or you can it'll tell you, yeah, that's Jupiter, and you can probably point your finger on it, and it'll show you the whole path throughout the night, too. So it'll be a good view throughout the whole week, which should be nice to see.
Yeah, and I will say this, if you have any decent binoculars or even a good camera, zoom in on that thing, and you might pick up the Galilean moons, which are the large moons around Jupiter. They're not always visible with the naked eye, but I've just my DSLR, I've zoomed in with a 200-millimeter lens, and you can see them. So that's kind of cool to see those. And there's a couple apps that tell you which moons are where every night, and it's kind of cool. They're lined up. And those moons, by the way, are the size of planets. They're not like our moon. They're huge. So worth a look out there tonight. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're out of time, Tim. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll talk more about the Panthers forecast as we get into the weekend as well. Stick around. More news coming up.
Oh, boy.
Hey everyone, welcome to our stream from 7 to 9 here. And don't forget, after at 9 o'clock, we have Panthers on the Plus, getting us ready for an amazing game this coming weekend. But first, we're going to have the news for the next 2 hours. And we're going to start with leaders, Republican leaders on the U.S. Capitol. We know they are back in session. I just got back to Washington, D.C. yesterday. Man, there have been numerous events that have happened over the weekend. Of course, Venezuela, Maduro now in the country, among other things. So let's listen in on what they had to discuss earlier today.
Businesses to invest, make capital investments in this country, whether that's bonus depreciation, interest deductibility, R&D expensing, the 199A deduction, permanent death tax relief, something that I worked on. Those are all investments that are going to pay off, because what they're going to lead to is higher paying jobs, better wages for people in this country, more money in their pocket to take care of themselves and their families. And the other thing that was included in that, and you're starting now to see as a result of some of the things that we did, the reforms taking place, dealing with, for example, a Medicaid SNAP program, work requirements, eligibility checks, making sure that immigrants, illegal immigrants, are not getting the benefit of some of these programs. Those were all things that were also included in that piece of legislation that we passed last summer. And that's really coming into focus now because of what's happening in the state of Minnesota. We are seeing up close and personal a real example of how some of these government programs are taken advantage of, and benefits delivered to people who are not eligible. Our whole goal in that legislation last summer was to make sure that the people who are supposed to benefit from government assistance actually do benefit, and it's not being abused and gained by states and people around this country. So we think there are just benefits that are going to continue to play out through the course of this next year for the American people, and we think this year, when they start filing their tax returns, it's going to be a good day for them, because they're going to have a lot more money in their pocket than they would have if the Democrats had their way and we weren't able to get the tax cuts, the Working Families Tax Cuts bill passed into law.
Leader.
Yep.
Good morning, good afternoon,
Good morning.
Happy New Year. When the president talks about Cuba, talks about Colombia, and he talks about Greenland, is that just bluster, or do you take him at his word?
Well, I think the president has demonstrated, at least already, a very strong commitment to peace through strength, and especially in this hemisphere. And I think Venezuela delivered or got that message loudly and clearly. And I think other countries in this hemisphere who are cooperating with narco-terrorists or in league with China and Russia and Iran and countries like that need to be on notice. And so I think the president's, this is not idle threats. I think his indication is that the United States is going to take care of America's vital national security interests, and that people in this region of the world ought to be working constructively with us to ensure that that happens. And in the case of the narco-terrorists, it's protecting a lot of Americans from the poisonous impact of illegal drugs coming into this country, or again, becoming a safe harbor for energy interested by countries like Russia and China and Iran.
So you take him at his word.
Do you think the White House on their website said put blame in part on Capitol Police for the violence that happened on January 6th 5 years ago? I'm curious whether or not you agree with the assessment on their website that says their provocative tactics turned a peaceful demonstration into chaos. Do you think the Capitol Police is partly to blame for the violence on their day?
I haven't seen what they put on their website, but the Capitol Police do a great job around here. This Friday is Law Enforcement Day, and we will honor and express our appreciation and gratitude to the men and women who serve in law enforcement across this country, including the Capitol Police, who protect this building on a daily basis.
Venezuela. Do you think that any health care deal to address these health insurance premiums rising has to include some form of the Crapo-Cassidy proposal to establish HSAs? Democrats aren't thrilled about it. Will Republicans insist on some form of HSAs being part of the deal?
I think any deal that ultimately comes together that could get the necessary votes in the Senate. Can't speak for the House, and obviously the White House is going to have their own views on this too. But to get a majority in the United States Senate and a healthy majority, I would think, one, you would have to have reforms. So you'd have to deal with the income limits. You'd have to deal with the $0 premium issue and make sure that everybody at least is paying something for coverage, so that the insurance companies can't game it and auto-enroll people and then have the money flow directly to them. And then the third, the second component would be some sort of a bridge to HSAs, an expansion of HSAs, so that you're getting more money into the pockets of the American people, the patients, if you will, the consumers, as opposed to the insurance companies. And then finally, you've got to deal with the height issue. I mean, those, I think, are the kind of the big three when it comes to something that could get through the Senate. And I know there are discussions going on right now with some of our members. We'll see where that goes. Ultimately, we want to ensure that if we do anything, it's done in a way that reforms these programs and protects ensures that those dollars aren't being used to go against the practice that's been in place for the last 50 years around here when it comes to taxpayer dollars being used to finance abortions. And that it also has this movement in the future toward HSAs and more utilization of those.
Venezuela.
Thank you. On Venezuela, President Trump has said he expects the U.S. to spend billions on the Venezuelan oil infrastructure, and that he expects to work with U.S. oil companies, meeting with them, and pay them back. How do you see using U.S. money, and do you think the Senate is ready to pass that? I assume you think that the Senate wants to approve that for that. And also to Frank's earlier question, do you think Capitol Police had a role in causing two
Well, first, on Venezuela, my view is that the Venezuela energy industry, which is in cahoots with China and Russia, is now going to need to start working constructively with the United States and with energy companies here. And what will happen if that actually takes place is that you will start seeing the people of Venezuela benefit from the energy industry instead of having the folks that they're in league with in China and Russia. So my view is that it's not going to be a cost to the American taxpayer. This ought to be revenue coming into this country if we're working in a way with Venezuela, and hopefully that an energy supply, a commodity that can benefit the Venezuelan people, which is something that I think they should derive some benefit from. And right now, their leadership, because they are corrupt and in bed with narco-terrorists and in bed with China and Russia, the people in that country are now seeing the benefit of something that they've got, an energy resource in this country that ought to be to their benefit. And again, I would just say, with respect to, we all here support 100% Capitol Police and the job that they do around here on a daily basis. Thank you.
All right, guys, that was the end of that. We're going to have the Democratic response to this right after we take this 2-minute break. We'll see you then. Well, thanks for sticking with us, and we're back. We're going to listen to Senator Chuck Schumer, among others, with their response in Capitol Hill just hours ago.
Here. Now, yesterday, Mark and I and other members sat through more than a 2.5-hour classified briefing with the administration, and after all that time, we got no real answers. They don't know where they're headed. They think they can do step 1, take out Maduro, and they have no idea what steps 2 through 10 are going to be, which gives all of us a great deal of worry. I asked 4 simple questions. How many American troops are we going to send to Venezuela? They don't know. How long will we be running Venezuela? Don't know. Unknown. How much is this going to cost? We tried to pin them down. No answer. What country is next? Unknown. But I was very unsatisfied when I asked them, are they considering going into other countries? It was really troubling. And last night, when asked, Trump told Americans he's in charge of Venezuela. When asked who's in charge of Venezuela, Trump said, me. One man, no idea, no plan. Whatever pops into his head, it seems, from that briefing. So let me ask a simple question. How does spending potentially years and potentially billions of taxpayer dollars in Venezuela put America first? How does this help families here at home pay the rent, pay the mortgage, pay for groceries, pay their energy bill, pay for their health care? Because right now, millions of Americans are losing coverage. Millions more are paying thousands, even tens of thousands more for health insurance. And what are Trump and Republicans doing? Nothing. He's all focused on Venezuela and Latin America. America first means lowering health care costs here at home, instead of using taxpayer dollars to build up the oil fields in Venezuela. It means helping American farmers, not bailing out Argentinian farmers. It means bringing manufacturing back to our shores, not handing over critical chips to China. It means helping families afford rent, mortgages, and energy bills. Instead, Trump is focused, it seems, on helping his big oil buddies, and he's focused on personal vanity projects like renaming the Kennedy Center and choosing which marble armrest to install. Instead of figuring out and helping us reduce health care costs, he's figuring out which marble armrest to install. The result? Life's getting a lot harder for American families. Republicans aren't just ignoring it, they're making it a lot worse. Senator Warner.
Well, thank you, Chuck. Let me also say one of the things that came out of the briefing yesterday was how extraordinary our military has been to execute this mission under fire without the loss of a single American life. It's really extraordinary. And as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs made clear, every component of the military was used. Because what this was a military action. And it is not the notion that the administration has put forward that somehow this is simply a legal action serving a warrant. It's absurd. It doesn't pass the smell test. And the ironic thing is here, they have used the argument on attacking the so-called drug boats as military action, as opposed to legal enforcement, while this supposedly was simply a legal enforcement. It does not pass the smell test. I commend our military, but echoing what Senator Schumer said, military execution without a plan for the day after leads to devastating consequences. Secondarily, the president on Saturday said he's not only going to run Venezuela, but this is not going to cost the American taxpayer a dime. Haven't we heard that promise before in Iraq, where Iraq oil was going to pay for the whole cost of the invasion? Now he's saying Venezuelan oil is going to pay for all of this operation. The challenge is this. We have an economic chokehold on Venezuela at this point by the blockade. To restore, though, Venezuela's oil exporting ability at about 1 million barrels a day, to get back up to where it was a decade plus ago, 4 million barrels a day, will literally take 2 to 4 years of rebuilding and some level of security for companies that go in. we couldn't get an answer as well as how much is the cost of having 20% of our fleet, the largest armada assembled in the Caribbean since the 20th century, how much per day is it costing our fleet to be stationed off of Venezuela, maintaining that economic chokehold? And by the fact that at the end of the day, the Venezuelans are going to pay for all of this, or Venezuelan oil, does that mean that 20% of the fleet has to stay there a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? These are the kind of questions that need to be answered. And I'll also echo what Senator Schumer said. A lot of our Virginians over the holidays lost their health insurance. This does nothing to make health insurance more affordable, groceries more affordable, drive down the cost of rent. That's what the American people want the President and the Congress to focus on. With that, my friend, Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Senator Warner. Senator Duckworth.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Warner. Thank you, Senator Schumer. I just want to say how in awe I am of the 160th air crew. Those boys and gals are badass, and all of those rotary wing air crew, I bow down to them. The Delta Force folks, what they managed to do. I've flown over urban areas in a combat situation, and what they did was remarkable. You know, here's the thing though. I've flown in a war that was fought over oil. I flew to out of Fort Knox to Kuwait and into Iraq 21 years ago to serve in Operation Iraqi Freedom. And I went not because I supported the war. Saddam Hussein was a bad guy, he was a dictator, and he deserved to be removed from power. However, the problem we have is that it is not the American people's responsibility to go around the world removing dictators from power and then running foreign countries when we have problems here at home. Maduro, brutal dictator. I would never dispute that. But the problem we have is the fact that yet again we have now entered into a war where there is no known off-ramp. If Donald Trump wants to run a country, he should think about running the United States of America. I was home over the break and I spoke to a gentleman whose health insurance policy for him and his wife are going to go up from $3,000 to $12,000. He cannot afford those premiums. His wife is sick. He's giving up his health insurance in order to be able to afford hers because they're on one income because she cannot work. Look, I don't know, maybe Trump dodged the draft so many times that he isn't capable of understanding the lessons that the rest of us have learned from past conflicts that are based on lies. We fought a war in Iraq for oil. We sent troops there, myself included, looking for weapons of mass destruction that did not exist. It was a war that was built on bluster and bravado from ignorance and arrogance of those in leadership, and yet here we are again in Venezuela. The reality is Trump's actions this past weekend and his reckless escalation in the days since seems all too familiar to those of us who have served in uniform. He has risked American lives to interfere in another nation's politics without legal basis, and for no good reason that he can articulate other than for the greed of oil. Trump campaigned on bringing costs down. He promised he'd get our nation out of wars, not into them. He campaigned on America first. Well, you know what? That's bullshit, because that's not how he's governing. When I go home to Illinois, folks are talking about health care costs, grocery costs. Tell me, please tell me, how he's making America great again when those costs for everyday Americans are skyrocketing because of his policies. When farmers tell me, you know what, I'm 8th generation, there won't be a 9th generation, we're about to lose our family farm because of his tariffs. Tell me how he's making America great again. So let me just say this. Instead of helping folks afford basic needs, Trump is more focused on regime change and building his Marie Antoinette ballroom, things that do not help everyday families we are supposed to be serving. It is a true testament to our troops' abilities that no Americans died during this operation. But we are already seeing reports that several Americans were injured. And yet at the same time, he's devastating the VA. He's firing. He had a goal of firing 83,000 employees from the VA, the same department that is supposed to be taking care of veterans who serve in these wars. Trump has never understood that the real cost of war isn't measured in dollars and cents, but in the blood and sacrifices of our service members and their families. But our troops know all too well just how costly it can be when a president relies on lies to engage in war over oil without a clearly defined end state. We know better. The American people know better. Listen, we've always known that Donald Trump is a coward and a liar. But this weekend, he proved that when he missed the Vietnam War, he also missed the lessons Americans learned there. The lessons that my buddies and I learned in Iraq decades later. So I'm here today to remind him of the true cost of war. I'm here to say that if he cares about putting America first, then maybe he should focus on running America and not Venezuela. Thank you.
I always try to call on a woman first. Go ahead, in the red. Well, you don't have to answer. Right there. It's the men are always woo-woo-woo, so I like to.
On healthcare, President Trump in his speech to House Republicans today that said they should take healthcare as an issue from Democrats and own it. But he also did say they should show some flexibility on pie. Do you think President Trump is open to a bipartisan deal, or do you think he's urging them to go down a partisan route?
From all their actions, they're totally partisan. None of them say extend the credits. Thune and Johnson are against extending them for a day, let alone a week, a month, a year, which is what's going to bring the health care cost down as much as. The Republican caucuses seem wedded to extending Hyde. That's again when you talk to their leadership. And so I think the best thing they can do is have the House pass Hakeem Jeffries' bill, send it over here, let Thune put it on the floor, and let's pass it. Go ahead,
Given what's happened here in Venezuela and the actions that Marco Rubio has taken, do you regret your vote to confirm him?
I am deeply, deeply disappointed in Marco Rubio, even before Venezuela, and even more so now. Yes.
Democrats used the appropriations process to restrict the Trump administration from deploying a major contingent of troops to Venezuela, or to prevent the Trump administration from going after Cuba or another country.
Okay. Our first focus has to be on what's coming up to Thursday, which is the War Powers Act, which Tim Kaine, Adam Schiff, Rand Paul, and myself have introduced. If we can pass that, and it only needs 2 more votes, it got 2 Republican votes last time, all future action that they do in Venezuela could stop. That's our number 1 focus. That's the best thing to do right now.
Leadership.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you see the security implications of the Maduro operation for our allies in the Pacific? There's especially increasing concern in Taiwan that China will become more belligerent.
Mark Warner has said this well. I'll paraphrase it and let him elaborate. What now prevents? There's always been norms in foreign policy that have served the United States well for hundreds of years, and certainly in the post-World War II era. What now prevents Xi from a Chinese court indicting a Taiwan leader and then scooping them up and arresting them? What prevents Putin from doing that to Ukrainians? This is very dangerous. Mark?
Let me just add, international order isn't perfect, but it puts some boundaries. If any large country can say to a smaller country next door, we don't like your leader, and he or she broke our law, and then go in and extract him, where does that lead? It leads to chaos, which has been the main drive of this Trump administration. The other thing that we heard on Saturday was we heard kind of a Trumpian approach about spheres of influence, or the Monroe Doctrine. For 75 years, under Democrats and Republican administrations alike, we thought, well, you know what? It's in our best interest, to treat with respect the countries in Central America and South America, not as kind of us being the imperial leader of the whole hemisphere. This kind of 21st century imperialism means that, does China get all of East Asia now? Does Russia get all of the former Soviet Union? Does it get Germany or Czechoslovakia as well, or the Czech Republic as well, within their so-called sphere of influence? This is why this kind of chaotic, by the seat of the pants foreign policy, not only does it turn potentially partners in Central and South America against us, but it scares the hell out of all of our allies in terms of our commitment.
Leadership. Thank you. On government funding here, when we talk about appropriations, though, why not then go to the math? I understand what you're saying about the Kaine resolution. I understand. Is there concern that you might have a government shutdown if you guys try to cut off funding for Venezuela?
We're focused on the Kaine resolution. That's the best way to go, and that's what we're focused on.
Why not use the power of the purse?
Can we please get your response to the president's recent rhetoric and threats toward Colombia, Iraq, Greenland, and Cuba? And has Congress made a mistake by giving them too much war power
being effective gradually here?
Well, look, ask our Republican colleagues that. We've tried several war power resolutions. We've gotten a few people to join them, but not enough. And it's needed now more than ever with a reckless president, a president who was just reckless when it comes to foreign policy. It's sort of fly by the seat of your pants. In that briefing, you know, I said, oh, it's hope for the best, but they don't have any plans. You can't do things that way. And so War Powers Act is extremely, extremely important.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
On the issue of these other nation states, you know, Maduro lost in 24. I wish the previous administration had done more to push him out at that point. But when you start talking about Colombia and Mexico, they're nations that had democratic elections. And we're going to somehow say we're going to superimpose our position on democratically elected states. What message does that send to the world? And the whole notion, I think the first few months, people kind of joked about Greenland. But the idea that he's potentially posing a serious military threat, nothing would lead to the absolute destruction of NATO more than American aggressive action against a long-term ally like Denmark.
I asked for some assurances that they were not planning operations in other countries, and I named a few of the ones you mentioned, including Colombia and Cuba, and I was very, very disappointed in their answer. Thank you.
All right, folks, that was the end of the response there from Democratic senators. We are going to go to a 2-minute break. Of course, we'll have much more for you after this here on WCNC Plus. All right, everybody, welcome back here inside the Impact Studio. Sheriff McFadden was nice enough to come by today, as he does pretty much every week, and I know there's a lot of pressing questions, not on or around not just the department, obviously, on some of the actions with ICE and some of, I guess, the comments made and allegations made about the department not working with federal employees and federal law enforcement, but obviously there's an ongoing issue with a number of employees, former employees from the department themselves, who are now pushing Sheriff McFadden to leave the office. So we did ask him some questions today about some of these things that are on his plate. Let's listen in right now to this interview we just had earlier today.
Time right now is 9:11. Breaking news right now is our top story this morning out of Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Gary McFadden facing some pressure as a new court petition has been filed to seek his removal from office. And this comes as the sheriff is also preparing to testify before the North Carolina General Assembly, that committee, later this month. Joining us right now live in the Live Impact Studio with our weekly weekly conversation is Sheriff Gary McFadden. Sheriff, thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
Sticking to our commitments. We need to start with this elephant in the room and what everyone's talking about. This petition filed by Representative Carla Cunningham, as well as some former employees with the Sheriff's Office. Some serious allegations here, misconduct, retaliation, even claims of threats. What is this stemming from, and your reaction to this filed petition?
Well, the reaction is that we cannot comment on this at this time because it is going to be investigated by the SBI. I received a copy yesterday and read through it, and I clearly understand what is going to happen after that, but not the process. So we're just going to leave it to the process and stick with the process and hope that the process reveal the true outcome of what these allegations are. And so we're not going to comment on it. We just hope that it is a fair and a thoughtful investigation, and that's it.
Are you concerned at all about how these allegations affect perhaps the public confidence in your office?
Well, we're always concerned about how someone tried to create a different image of you. We're always going to be concerned about that. People who know me know my image, they know my style. And so, it is always that era that we have when it becomes election season. And so we're in the middle of election season, 60 days out from the primary. So we all understand that. It is devastating to my staff, my family, and also to myself, but we have to leave it to the process.
And these allegations, of course, following you now to your next major appearance. We know the North Carolina General Assembly requesting your appearance, as well as several other leaders in Mecklenburg County, to talk about safety, transit safety, as well as other initiatives like DEI. What do you expect from this hearing?
Well, we don't know exactly what to expect from the hearing. They asked for numerous documents from my agency, and we're going to produce those documents. We believe that these are the type of conversations that we need to have prior to something like this. You're mixing two incidents. You're mixing what happened with the light rail, and then you're trying to mix it with these allegations of this petition. And what we're simply asking people to understand is these are the type of conversations we should have all the time with the lawmakers in Raleigh, and let us clarify some of the misunderstandings that they may have. And hopefully when we get to Raleigh, we will clarify some of the misunderstandings that they may have, and clarify a lot of things for the public. So we look forward to the hearing. We're going to produce all the documents that have been asked of us, and we go forward. But we hope that this is the beginning of conversations. As I always say, that we need more conversations and collaboration and communication. And that is what will be helpful going forward.
Yeah, you've said you have nothing to hide, and you look forward to this opportunity to set the record straight. But, between the court petition, the criticism over Irina's law, what happens between now and then? Because you still have a few weeks.
Well, we still have to carry on with our duties at the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office. We can't stop. We don't expect these things to happen the way that they did, but when they do arise, we have to go forward. We have to stand strong and keep on moving forward with the agency. So we know this sometimes is a distraction for many people. It blows up on social media, blows up in the media, and it is very hard for some of my staff and family members and friends to deal with it. But we're going to have to go through it, and we are just going to come out on the other side.
You've made a point of distinguishing your role between the Sheriff's Office and CMPD. You don't answer calls for service, and the focus is on the jail, the courthouse security, and the civil processes. Why is this distinction important to understand from both the lawmakers as well as the public?
Because, and that's a great question, because what we do and CMPD does is similar, but they do not do civil papers, they do not do the courthouse, they don't take care of detention. All of that is different in the wheelhouse of the Sheriff's Office. Now, most people do not believe that the Sheriff's Office or deputies have the right to stop you for speeding or give you a traffic ticket or even powers of arrest outside of the detention center. But we do. It's just that we have been mandated by a civil process, serving court documents and papers and evictions, and that is different from CMPD.
I want to shift gears a little bit to something that happened over the holidays, and we certainly watched it here from the newsroom. I know you watched it as well. New Year's Eve, the FBI announced that they thwarted a potential terrorist attack right here from Mint Hill. Is there any role from the sheriff's office in the investigation?
No, it wasn't no role from the sheriff's office. You know, we're going to house this individual when he's here. Other than housing those type of individuals, that's not our role unless we're being asked to come in to assist doing the investigation or the apprehension of these people. But our role is pretty much minimum to that.
And the suspect, an 18-year-old from Mint Hill, you work with a lot of young men. And so in the broader scheme of things, this incident kind of raises concerns about some of the radicalization happening today, especially among young folks online. And I know you're working with a lot of young men through the detention center system. What is the, philosophy from your office or you personally on working with men trying to get them out of trouble?
Well, our young men or generations, and not even this generation, several generations, have been pulled into a dark hole. And that dark hole is the internet and social media. And then homegrown terrorism is on our doorsteps every day. If you think about it, we would believe that this should happen someplace else, but it happens on our doorsteps here in Mecklenburg County. Well, these are people who set home, or as we love to say, sit in the basement and, listen to music and listen to other parts of the media, and people feed into it in the dark web, and then they have these ideas, and then after the ideas they want to act out on them, and they are being encouraged by many people on social media or the internet. And so besides that, our young generation is going through a lot, with social media, being bullied and just being accepted. And then we have, mental health. So we're going to have to tackle that if we want to come out on the better side. But our young generation and even our generation is going through a lot. We have social media and media, and it pulls us into different directions and belief. And then it feeds into our ideas, and then we want to act upon them. So this is not so much of an isolated incident. These homegrown terrorists, what we call the lone wolf, is the most dangerous individuals out there.
Yeah, and so again, to circle back, it just comes back to the issues with the jails and the detention centers and the capacity and having some of these homegrown criminals or suspects, I should say, in the system. Where do things stand right now as far as the detention centers?
Well, our numbers are going up. We've reached our all-time record this past weekend. I think it was like 1687, and usually we hover around 1,500. So we're the numbers are rising. We well expected that, and so as we said before, these numbers will go up. And so what you have to understand that we're bringing in people in and housing people that would ordinarily be released. I talked to a family member the other day that a family member have been here for trespassing several times, and now they are going to be continuously housed for trespassing, but that person is dealing with a lot of mental health challenges, and the family is calling us to say, what can we do? Answer 2 calls this morning about mental health and their individuals or their loved ones inside a detention center. So these are the things that we're going to have to face and continue to face and work with, and hoping that the public truly understands what we have to do each day and what we are facing each day, and simply just not housing people waiting for court. But we are still housing people waiting for court, but they have many challenges.
Yeah, so looking ahead and with folks saying that there are these safety issues, capacity, and you said the numbers are going up over the weekend, how do you address these challenges? What is the first step? Well,
the first step is making sure that your staff is safe. And you have the mindset that this is part of your job. Be safe. If you have to step back, take days days off. We even consider that. As we said last week, my deputies evicted 190 some people out of their homes during that time, and I told them, take time for yourself, take time for your mental health. But then when we have all these people housed inside a detention center, safety is a concern, and then we deal with that each and every day.
And when it comes to responding to those who say, you're not managing the jails in an efficient manner, what is your response to that?
Well, I always tell people, come and see what we have to manage. Most people say that from what they read, from what they have heard other people say. Come and see our challenges inside the detention center. Think about this, and I always say this. During COVID, we didn't have one person to die inside the detention center. But if you look at it, people say, well, people are dying inside the detention center. Well, they die from, basically illnesses and disease and poverty. And so, we're sitting back, as they say, Monday morning quarterbacking, looking at the detention center. Come and see the challenges that we have. We're talking about people who've been allegedly accused of violent crimes, all housed in one building, and with mental health and poverty and all of that inside of one building. So think about it. If we take a hotel, we take the Marriott and said everybody who's homeless, let's put them in the Marriott for a month. What would be your challenges?
There you go. There is a forum coming up tonight. This is talking about the ongoing misconceptions about the closures of the Juvenile Detention Center. Talk to us about the timing of this forum. Why is it happening now, and what can people do to get involved?
Well, we want people to be fully aware of what the challenges would be if we reopen this detention center. The first challenge is staffing. It will take 96 people to run that detention center, what we call Jail North or Detention Center North. 96 people. How would we hire those people? How would we vet those people? And how would we onboard those people? Both agencies, Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office and the juvenile part of the system here, also have shortages. So if both of us has shortages, then why would we reopen another facility? We have some ideas to reopen that facility, and we want to present those ideas tonight. We do need a juvenile detention center in the state the size that Mecklenburg County could operate. But how would we operate it? And when we talk about stakeholders, everybody likes to say stakeholders and resources. Of course we need stakeholders and resources, but we need financial resources also. And the main resource is staffing. Where are we going to find 96 people to come inside and run this juvenile detention center? So we've been having conversations here and there for years, back and forth, some closed doors. I don't think nobody has an open forum like we're going to have tonight, but I have been involved in many conversations, and some of the information is slanted towards the sheriff's office that the sheriff does not want to open the juvenile detention center. That's not true. The juvenile detention center was closed at the end of our contract, and so we did not honor the second contract for the juvenile detention center, and this is what caused all the rhetoric that we closed it. So we just didn't honor the second contract.
Okay, so the contract expired, and now I guess trying to find a solution to that. So that forum is tonight again. 6 o'clock is the start time?
At Valerie Woodard Center.
All right, Valerie Woodard Center.
And we invite people to come out and talk about it. We want to know, when we say stakeholders, what could you contribute to help us reopen this center, and why is it closed? Why? How can it be reopened? And that is what we look forward to.
All right, and these are the conversations, it sounds like, that you are open to and inviting open conversations with seeking real solutions.
And that is what we want to do. We want to find out real solutions. We can always talk about it, what if, or the sheriff won't do this, or the state won't do that, or the state should do this and the sheriff should do that. So when we have this open forum, we have people telling us what they would like to see, and let the stakeholders raise their hand to say, we are willing to help, we are willing to invest, and we are willing to help organize this effort. And we also, but the biggest issue that everybody should understand is staffing. If we can find 96 people to work inside the detention center, that is the number one problem that we're going to have, staffing.
Sheriff Gary McFadden joining us here live in the Live Impact studio. His testimony, of course, is confirmed for January 22nd in front of the State General Assembly. We will look forward to more conversations with you, Sheriff.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Certainly we appreciate Sheriff McFadden spending time with us today, but really every week that he does so. And, of course, facing some of the questions that we asked him today and for his time as well. We're going to take another 2-minute break, of course. But after this, we're going to have more from Nick Sturdivant and an interview from a UNCC professor about what we're seeing in Venezuela. We'll see you in 2. Welcome back, everyone. Obviously, there's been a lot that has gone on in the last 48, 72 hours, even longer than that, with Venezuela and some of the actions that have been taken from the United States. Obviously, we know Nicolas Maduro is now in the United States on trial for a number of different charges, federal charges, might I add. But there are a lot of individuals talking about the fallout from this and really what comes next. So we're going to go to this interview from UNC Charlotte professor and Nick Sturdivant talking a little bit more about what comes next. Here it is.
Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. So we've been covering for days now. What's next when it comes when it comes as far as talking about Venezuela, right? So here's what we got. I want to read you the latest from NBC News. So President Donald Trump told NBC News he could launch a second military operation in Venezuela if his acting president stops cooperating. He also said the U.S. may subsidize an effort by oil firms to rebuild the country's energy infrastructure. I want to read you one last thing. A U.S. official told NBC News that a recent classified intelligence assessment determined that top members of the regime, including new acting leader Delcy Rodriguez, were best positioned to lead a stable government if Nicolas Maduro lost power. Now, as you remember, and as we've been covering, we've been talking about that deposed leader, Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, pleaded not guilty in New York after they were captured in that surprise attack. Maduro in court saying, I am a prisoner of war, still exerting his power there, still saying, hey, I'm still the president there in Venezuela. We want to bring in, and we had him on yesterday afternoon, so I'm thankful that he's able to make it back. Dr. Greg Weeks, Associate Dean of College of Humanities and Earth and Social Sciences, Latin American Studies there at UNC Charlotte. Thank you for joining us again, Dr. Weeks.
No, thank you for having me.
I know it was a lot I put out there in the beginning, and we continue to get updates seemingly by the minute on what's been playing out in Venezuela and how it impacts sort of everything that's been going on around the world. World leaders are also reacting. Just from those updates I provided, I guess your assessment on what's been playing out the last 48 hours or so.
Well, what we've seen, really unlike a lot of U.S. invasions in the past, is that a very quick military operation to remove a president that does not leave U.S. troops on the ground. So we have this interesting situation where you have a dictatorship, and the dictatorship is completely still in power. The vice president was very close to Maduro. So it's not exactly clear what has changed in Venezuela itself. And we'll have to see how the Trump administration maintains control over Delcy Rodriguez sort of from afar, as I said yesterday, by remote control. And really, this is something where things are changing by the hour, just not entirely clear what direction Venezuela is going to take. It's very different from other cases.
You know, we've heard from France, we've heard from Iran, again, countries from different ends of the perspective in as far as how they view what's happening in Venezuela, but the overall sentiment is cautiously. Well, with France, cautiously optimistic, but some pessimism in what's happening there and what's played out. Sort of, what's from your vantage point, the public view of the United States and what's been happening from these countries' perspectives?
Well, I think what you're seeing is a lot of countries, people within those countries, viewing the U.S. as just sort of doing what it wants and not really particularly concerned about international law or sovereignty of other countries. So they wonder, well, what could this lead to? What further things could happen as a result of this? So very cautious. Nobody's shedding any tears about Nicolas Maduro leaving power because he was quite cruel and wouldn't allow elections and shut down all opposition. So he himself isn't really the issue, but it's rather a matter of international law. Can the U.S. simply go and grab people from other countries, leaders of other countries that it doesn't like? And so that's why you're seeing particularly Russia and China. Well, if you can do that near your country, maybe we can do that near our countries. So that's why there's a lot of sort of hesitancy around the world about what the U.S. has done.
And that being said, and this is not really a question, I just kind of want to get your thoughts on this. The conversation over Greenland has come back up. When you hear that, and also, again, what's been playing out, your thoughts, and your sort of, could you provide some context on what's happening there?
So Greenland is so different. It's a very different situation. President Trump has been interested in obtaining Greenland for a long time, but it's different because it's part of a democratic country. An autonomous region of Denmark. It's certainly not a dictatorship. It has not sort of violated the rights of its own people. It's just simply something that the president wants. So it's different in that way. It's different also is that would require invasion. You can't sort of land a few troops and have them leave, and the U.S. suddenly controls Greenland. So obtaining Greenland would be an act of war, even more so than with Venezuela. And so that's why you see a lot more opposition to discussions about Greenland, even more so than with Venezuela.
One thing that you talked about yesterday afternoon, and I want to ask you this before I let you go. There has been comparisons to U.S. interventions in countries like Panama, Cuba, Guatemala. For historical context, because U.S. as I just laid out there, intervention is nothing new when it comes to the U.S. In looking back in history, decades, it went from Cold War to the war on drugs. Could you explain sort of the difference? Because there's a difference between, because you keep hearing what happened in Panama, but there's a clear difference there, right?
Well, there is. I mean, the U.S. has invaded numerous countries, many in Latin America, and one thing that's always happened is that the U.S. has sent thousands of troops. So in Panama, it's thousands of troops fighting, U.S. troops, and then they stay there. They stay there perhaps only a matter of weeks, but they stay there until the U.S. decides that things are stabilized. And so this is very different. The U.S. is not does not have occupying troops, and that raises the question of how control can be exerted when the U.S. does not have troops there. So a lot of the similarities that appear on the surface are quite different. Venezuela is a much larger country than, say, a Panama or a Dominican Republic. So this is really uncharted territory for doing this from afar, and so we have to watch day by day how this plays out.
And as you mentioned just minutes ago, I mean, things are changing seemingly by the hour. And as they do, we would love to check in with you, Dr. Weeks. Thank you for your time again. Associate Dean Dr. Greg Weeks, their College of Humanities and Earth and Social Sciences, Latin American Studies at UNC Charlotte. Thank you for your time, Dr. Weeks.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, folks, it's great to have that professor with us. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break and come back on a new firehouse that's opening up here pretty soon. Welcome back, everyone. Yes, a new firehouse, Charlotte's all-electric firehouse, is now open. This is on Beam Road. It's Firehouse 30, and it just had an uncoupling ceremony today. So we're going to go to this ceremony as we were there for it. It's a pretty exciting day for the city of Charlotte.
All right, if everybody gather around, we'll get started. I'm in. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. On behalf of Charlotte Fire, thank you for joining us for the grand opening and uncoupling of Firehouse 30. We appreciate our city leadership, community partners, firefighters, families, and neighbors for being here to mark this important moment. Before we begin, I want to briefly explain the tradition of uncoupling ceremony. In the fire service, uncoupling symbolizes the moment a firehouse transitions from construction to service. It represents readiness, responsibility, and the commitment to respond when the community calls for help. It is now my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Charlotte Fire Chief Reginald Johnson.
Thank you, Battalion Chief Lipsack, and good afternoon, everybody. It's so good to have so many folks here to celebrate with us today. When someone in the community dials 911, it's because something has gone wrong and they need help now. In 2025, Charlotte Fire responded to more than 126,000 emergencies. Firehouse 30 exists to shorten the distance between crisis and care and put help on the scene much faster. That readiness does not happen by accident. I want to begin by welcoming and thanking several members of our city leadership who are with us today. Councilmember Dimple Ajmera, City Council at Large, thank you for your continued support of Charlotte Fire. Councilmember Dante Anderson, District 1 Representative and Chair of the new City Council Safety Committee, thank you for your leadership and advocacy for the men and women of this department. I'd like to thank our General Services staff. I think I see a lot of them here with Phil, Kathleen, and many others. Thank you all for your support of this and many other projects that we're working on. And last but not least, thank you to Heather Bolick, our Chief Sustainability and Resiliency Officer, whose office played a critical role in making Firehouse 30 a model for the future. Today is more than opening a new firehouse. It's about honoring where we have been, recognizing the people who carried us here, and committing ourselves to the future of the community. Today is about more than opening a firehouse. It's about honoring people and places that carried the company for decades, preparing for what comes next. Firehouse 30 began operating in 1991. I want you to pay attention to that date. Started operating in 1991 out of what was meant to be a temporary quarters, serving the airport area, nearby industrial facilities, and the Steel Creek community. The temporary home served for more than 30 years. The station operated out of a small house on Bell Oaks Drive built in 1957, and it earned a nickname that stuck, Grandma's House. Firehouse lore says it once belonged to the grandmother of one of the firefighters assigned to that station. Whether legend or fact, that name stuck. It felt like a home inside. Crews lived and ate together, built strong bonds, and even shared stories about a raccoon that learned where the leftovers were kept and became a part of the firehouse folklore. That spirit carries on today at new Firehouse 30. As Charlotte has grown, it became clear that Grandma's House could no longer meet the needs of the community or the risks to this area. What never changed was the commitment of the firefighters assigned to Station 30. They continue to serve with professionalism and pride every single day. The new firehouse represents the same commitment, now matched with the resources needed for today and the flexibility needed for tomorrow. The facility strengthens response times in the Beam Road and Airport corridor. It supports one of the most complex response areas in the city, including the airport, industrial operations, growing neighborhoods. It is designed to grow as Charlotte grows. Firehouse 30 also reflects the city's leadership in sustainability and resilience. Charlotte's first electric firehouse paired with the first electric North American style fire engine. This is what responsible growth, innovation look like when public safety is the center. None of this happens without partnership. Thank you to the mayor and city council City Manager's Office, City Manager Marcus Jones, the Office of Sustainability and Resilience, and the Department of General Services for your vision and support. Firehouses are not just buildings, they are promises. Promises that when someone in the community dials 911, trained professionals will respond. Firehouse 30 carries forward the spirit of Grandma's house while providing the community with the protection it deserves for the future. Thank you for being part of an important and historical day. At this time, I'd like to invite Councilmember Dimple Ajmera, who has been instrumental in this project and many others, to come up and share a few words. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is an exciting day for Charlotte because as we open Firehouse 30, we are not just opening a new building, we are opening a promise to our community. A promise that public safety remains our #1 priority. A promise that innovation belongs in our city government, and a promise that Charlotte will lead by example. Firehouse 30 is more than a fire station. It is a model for the future. As a LEED certified facility, it uses smart design and advanced energy systems to work more efficiently, reduce costs, and protect our environment without ever compromising on our safety. From heat reflecting concrete to smart cooling roofs, every detail reflects a simple truth. Progress and responsibility can and must go hand in hand. At the groundbreaking, our Chief Sustainability Officer, Heather Bollick, shared a belief displayed at our Fire Training Academy that says it best. We do what is right, not what is easy. That's exactly what this Firehouse 30 represents. Because doing what's right is not always the fastest path, but it is the path that builds stronger neighborhoods, supports our firefighters, and protects future generations. This firehouse stands as a commitment to protect our people and our planet, and to build a Charlotte that is ready for tomorrow. I want to thank Chief Johnson, our firefighters, city staff, and every partner who helped us bring this vision to life. So congratulations on setting a new standard for public safety in Charlotte. Thank you. And now I would like to turn it over to Council Member Dante Anderson, who represents District 1. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled to be here at the reimagining of Grandma's house. I just found out that the folklore around that. As you heard, my name is Dante Anderson. I represent District 1, and I am the chair of the new Safety Committee. And I can't tell you how good it feels to finally be here at this moment. This is more than a new building. It's a new resource for the people of Charlotte. As someone who grew up here, I know just how much fire stations really mean to the neighborhood. It's a place of safety, but also trust. When you see those red trucks roll out, you know your city is ready to be protected, and the good men and women who support the fire department, who are members of the fire department, are here to protect you. As the chair of our newly created Safety Committee, I think a lot about safety these days and what it really truly means. It's not just about a quick response, although that matters. Response time matters. But it's about connection. It's about firefighters being a part of the community they serve. Firehouse 30 will be that place. It will be a place that is ingrained in community. And it will be a place where neighbors and first responders work together to build community trust. This station also shows us how we can protect our people and our planet at the same time. It's the city's first all-electric firehouse, and we can expect that this building will be a LEED Gold building, which is tremendous, a tremendous accomplishment. Every feature helps reduce emissions, lowers cost, and creates a healthier environment. This is what the future of public safety looks like: strong, efficient, and sustainable. Firehouse 30 is an investment in the people who live here and the firefighters who serve them. I want to thank the chief, the fire department, of course our staff, but also my colleagues on City Council for supporting these efforts and raising their hands to invest in initiatives and efforts like this. We've done the hard work and we've made this possible. And I want to thank every single firefighter who will soon call Grandma's house home. Thank you so much. Welcome to Firehouse 30, where community and safety come together for a better Charlotte. And with that, I'd like to welcome Heather Bullock, who is our Chief Sustainability and Resiliency Officer.
Good afternoon. It is indeed a great day, an exciting day. And I was so really pleased to be able to show my son this awesome building last week when he was out of school. And he's 12, and his whole life he's been wanting to be a police officer. After seeing this really, really amazing building that I'm really proud of, and seeing this really awesome electric fire truck, he might have been pushed to the other side. So you have heard today from our chief and council members about all of the forward-thinking, sustainable, and efficient features of this building, and how it houses one of the most technologically advanced vehicles of our fleet yet, our electric fire truck. However, as many of the staff here today can tell you, especially Kathleen Zushek, I am already thinking about what's next, and she is too. And though I am so proud of how far the city has come with the support of all of the council members and leadership, I know that to really move the needle in the Queen City will truly depend on the support of our entire community. And so with that in mind, I want to take this time today to ask you to charge into the future with us. So how can you do that? I charge you to go today to energysavernc.org, because just a couple of days ago, the state of North Carolina has now included Mecklenburg County in the Energy Saver NC program, which gives free energy audits to income qualified homes, and you can weatherize your home. If it's time for an appliance upgrade, consider efficient electric heat pumps like we have here at Firehouse 30, or go solar like we did here at Firehouse 30. The city has laid the groundwork, but charge into the future with us. Thank you so much.
Before I turn it back over to Chief Lipsack, I failed to recognize two friends of mine and mentors, former Chief Luther Fincher and former Chief John Hannon. I appreciate them for being here. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. I'll turn it back over to Chief Lipsack.
Thank you. Before we conclude, I want to once again thank the Office of Sustainability and Resilience and the Department of General Services for their work throughout this project. Your work ensured Firehouse 30 is not only operationally ready, but built to serve Charlotte well into the future. At this time, we will proceed with the uncoupling ceremony. The act officially places Firehouse 30 into service and signifies readiness to this project for the community. I invite the leadership, including ex-Chiefs Chief Fincher and Chief Hannon, to join us for the uncoupling of Firehouse 30. Thank you all for being here today.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick 2-minute break, get ourselves together. We'll be back after this. All right, everyone, welcome back. We appreciate you coming back with us. We have just a little bit more than, I would say, about 40 minutes here left on WCNC Plus Impact News. And don't forget, we do have Panthers. I almost said Pack on the Plus. No way. Panthers on the Plus tonight at 9. It'll be live with Nick Carboni. But we do want to get to this as the New York Police Department had a press conference today with Mayor-elect Mamdani. Let's listen in on this in public safety.
Good morning, everyone. 2025 was a historic year for the NYPD and for the city of New York. Shooting incidents and shooting victims fell to their lowest levels in recorded history. The subway system had its safest year outside the pandemic era since 2009. Transit robberies fell to their lowest point ever, even when you include the pandemic era, and retail theft was down a whopping 14%. Together, these numbers describe an agency that is firing on all cylinders, driven by the extraordinary work of the men and women of the the NYPD, I want to be clear. These are not incremental gains. They're historic outcomes. Before I get into the data, I want to thank Governor Hochul for being here with us today. Her presence is a symbol of the true partner that she has been to this department, committed to the mission, supportive of the cops, and focused on the results. When federal funding for our counterterrorism programs came under threat, she fought to protect it. She invested in public safety across the city, and those investments have helped produce so many of the 2025 results that we will cover today. I also want to thank Mayor Mamdani, to whom I report directly and with whom I am developing a close and productive working relationship. I look forward to working with him to continue to drive down crime in 2026. Now let's get into the 2025 crime numbers, starting with shootings. In 2025, New York City recorded 688 shooting incidents, the lowest number in the city's history. That didn't just break the previous record set in 2018, it shattered it, with 66 fewer shootings than that benchmark year. Compared to 2024, shooting incidents fell by 216 citywide. That is a 24% reduction. They fell 36% in the fourth quarter of 2025, and in the month of December, shootings fell 43% with just 35 shooting incidents citywide. That is the lowest number of shootings ever in any month of the year, beating the previous record of 36 shooting incidents set in February of 2018. We see the headlines and we hear the pundits talk about crime being out of control in our city. These numbers tell a very different story. To put all of this into perspective, in 2025, we halved Chicago's more than 1,400 shooting incidents, despite having roughly 3 times the population. And we have Philadelphia's shooting total as well, despite having more than 5 times the population. This underscores just how far New York City has pushed gun violence down at a scale unlike any other city in the country. And it puts this moment into historical context. For decades, people have pointed to the early 1990s as the moment New York City turned the corner on gun violence, years that had been studied and written about. What is striking is that the drop in shootings from 2024 to 2025 was of a similar magnitude. Given all of this, it should come as no surprise that the number of people shot in New York City also fell to historic lows in 2025, with 856 shooting victims citywide. That is 41 fewer people shot than the previous record year of 2018. Compared to 2024, shooting victims declined by 247 citywide, a 22% reduction. That progress accelerated at the end of the year. In the fourth quarter, shooting victims fell by more than 34%, with December posting the lowest victim totals ever recorded for that month. And compared to 2021, 1,021 fewer people were shot in New York City in 2025. Those historic reductions in shooting incidents and victims weren't confined to a single part of the city. Percent or more. Brooklyn also saw a significant decline, with shootings down 15% below the previous benchmark set in 2024. Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island each had the lowest number of shooting incidents for any year in recorded history. Now let's get into the full crime picture. Major crime in 2025 was down 3% citywide, with reductions in all 5 boroughs, including a nearly 4% decline in public housing. Can someone just get me a glass of water? All good, thank you. All good, thank you. Oops. Sorry, I had something in my throat. Thank you. Here, Chief. Make no mistake about it. These reductions are the product of our precision policing strategy, putting an unprecedented number of cops on the streets and in the neighborhoods, driving violence, including thousands of additional officers on foot posts, and conducting targeted takedowns of the most violent gangs operating in our city. Last year alone, our Detective Bureau carried out 70 takedowns, resulting in the arrest of 390 gang members. You can see the impact of our zone strategy most clearly in the places that have historically experienced the most violent crime and where we have maintained permanent precision policing zones. Take the 2-5 precinct, which includes the 125th Street corridor. Major crime there dropped by 21%. Or the 110 and the 115 precincts, which cover Roosevelt Avenue, where major crime fell 24%. Now let's go through the 7 major crime categories. Citywide, murders declined 20% in 2025, with 77 fewer people murdered than 2024. And the declines deepened at the end of the year. In December, murders fell to 15 citywide, down nearly 38% from 2024. Alongside those reductions, our Detective Bureau has maintained a murder clearance rate of 69% in 2025. That citywide decline was driven by significant borough reductions. On Staten Island, murders fell by more than 60% in 2025. Manhattan was down 33%, Brooklyn was down 24%, and the Bronx was down 18%. Robbery declined nearly 10% citywide in 2025, a reduction of more than 1,600 incidents year over year. In 2025, burglaries fell nearly 4% citywide. That decline accelerated at the end of the year, down more than 15% in December and 10% in the fourth quarter. Grand larceny declined nearly 2% citywide in 2025. While this category remains one of the city's most persistent challenges, the full year numbers show continued progress as well. Auto theft declined 5% citywide in 2025, with a nearly 8% drop in the fourth quarter compared to 2024. That late year decline reflects early progress from our work with auto manufacturers, including targeted efforts with companies like Honda to address vulnerabilities and disrupt theft patterns before vehicles are stolen. Felony assault remained virtually flat for the year. The overall picture on felony assaults is shaped by 2 important dynamics. First, assaults on public sector employees, which include police officers, increased by roughly 25% last year, a serious and unacceptable trend that reflects the risks our officers continue to face in the line of duty. Second, domestic violence continues to drive a significant share of felony assaults, accounting for nearly 40% of these crimes citywide. The NYPD made fundamental changes at the end of last year to how these domestic violence cases are handled. In October, we created the Domestic Violence Unit within the Detective Bureau, a survivor-centered, trauma-informed approach that places specialized investigators in every precinct. It ensures continuity from complaint through prosecution, and it brings consistency and accountability to cases that demand it. Citywide, rapes were up 16%, largely due to a state law that went into effect in September 2024, which rightfully broadened the legal definition of rape to capture the full range of these crimes. Within that increase, domestic violence-related rapes rose by 25% and now account for roughly half of all reported rape cases citywide. That's why domestic violence cases, including sexual violence, are now being handled through the NYPD's Domestic Violence Unit with the focused attention that they require. I am looking forward to that starting to pay dividends in 2026. And progress extended into our transit system. 2025 was the safest year on our subways outside of the pandemic years since 2009. For 6 consecutive months, major crime on the subway system fell, contributing to a 4% drop over the course of the year. Transit robberies reached their lowest levels ever in 2025, even when you include the pandemic years, down 12% compared to 2024. And for the year, shooting incidents on our subways were down a remarkable 63%. Put simply, on a system that serves around 4 million riders on an average weekday, there were fewer than 6 major crimes per day. These results don't make the transit system safer, they make it feel safer too. A recent poll conducted by the MTA found that nearly 7 out of 10 subway riders say they feel safe using the system. That is an increase of 12 percentage points from the beginning of the year. That shift reflects what riders are seeing: more officers on trains and platforms, and a consistent focus on maintaining order where transit crime most often occurs. And none of this happens without partnership. The progress that we have made in the subway system was supported by the sustained commitment of Governor Hochul, whose investment in transit safety has strengthened our ability to deploy officers where they matter most and sustain these gains over time. Beyond the transit system, we applied that same disciplined, data-driven strategy to crimes that directly affect daily life, including retail theft. Retail theft is a recidivist-driven crime that spiked in the early 2020s, and communities across the city felt the impact in very real ways. From everyday items like toothpaste being locked behind cases to local businesses struggling to stay open. We heard that concern clearly from residents, workers, and store owners. In 2025, we responded with focus and with urgency. Retail theft declined by 14% citywide. That turnaround followed a clear strategy. We identified the patterns driving retail theft. We concentrated resources at high-propensity locations during peak hours, and we shifted from pass-through enforcement to sustained investigation. As a result, nearly half of all retail theft complaints resulted in an arrest, the highest rate since 2019. While we have made historic gains generally fighting violent crime, we have not turned the tide yet on youth violence. In 2025, 14% of shooting victims were under the age of 18, an increase of 5 percentage points from 2024. And 18% of shooting perpetrators were also under the age of 18. These are the highest percentages that we've ever seen for both measures since we began tracking this data in 2018. That reality demanded a change in approach. That is why this fall, we implemented school safety zones, modeled after our violence reduction zones, but designed specifically to keep kids safe. These zones focus on the places where young people are most likely to fall victim to a crime: commuter corridors, bus stops, and the routes students take to and from school. And the early results are significant. Since September, within these zones, overall crime was down 53%, and shooting incidents and shooting victims are down there more than 75%. Excuse me. We also changed our strategy with school safety agents, including deployments in and around schools, and the results there were striking too. School-related enforcement is down 21%, and school-related crime is down 22%. Get another sip of water. Thank you, sorry. Okay. All right. Addressing youth violence isn't the work of one unit, one agency, or one solution. It requires all of us, families, schools, communities, elected officials, and law enforcement playing our part to keep young people safe. The same is true when it comes to transportation safety. You often hear transportation safety discussed in the context of other agencies, and they deserve so much credit. But I want to brag for a moment about the NYPD's role. Traffic fatalities reached historic lows last year, falling 19% from 2024, and to the lowest total ever recorded in New York City's history. That progress is the result of focused enforcement, particularly against the behaviors that put lives at risk, including drunk and impaired driving. Through sustained DWI enforcement and targeted deployments, NYPD officers are taking dangerous drivers off the road. Last year, DWI arrests were up 15% compared to 2024. Safety in our streets depends not only on enforcement, but on our own judgment. In February, the NYPD updated its vehicle pursuit policy to limit pursuits to the most serious and dangerous crimes. The impact was immediate. Last year, vehicle pursuits dropped by more than 60% compared to 2024. Just as important, the risks associated with pursuits declined sharply as well. Fatalities fell by more than 80%, collisions dropped by nearly 50%, and injuries were cut almost in half. Next, quality of life. Since April, our quality of life teams have been responding to the daily issues eroding people's sense of safety, specifically as they were reported through the 311 system. That work is happening against a backdrop of sharply increased demand. Since 2019, 311 calls have increased by 104%. Even with that surge, citywide response times for chronic quality of life issues improved by an average of 22 minutes in 2025. Service times dropped by more than 14%, and contact resolutions through 311 increased by more than 16%. In 2025, hate crimes declined 12% citywide. Anti-Semitic incidents also declined, down 3% year over year, but they still accounted for 330 cases, representing 57% of all hate crimes reported in New York City, despite Jewish New Yorkers making up roughly 10% of the city's population. These numbers remain far too high, and anti-Semitism continues to be the most persistent hate threat that we face. The NYPD will continue to confront hate crimes aggressively and protect every community targeted because of who they are. The results that I have just described are extraordinary on their own. They are even more extraordinary when you reflect on where this department stood just a year ago. A crisis of leadership, a department plagued by scandal at the top, and public confidence deeply shaken. And yet, through it all, the men and women of the NYPD kept doing the work New Yorkers depend on. They met the standard, they upheld their responsibilities, and they delivered remarkable results that speak for themselves. That kind of work matters, and people noticed. In 2025, the NYPD hired more than 4,000 officers across 4 academy classes, making this the largest hiring year on record and bringing us virtually to the department's authorized headcount. That kind of growth does not happen by chance. It happens when a profession earns the confidence of the city that it serves, and when people see this work as something worth stepping forward for. And despite what critics say, this year the NYPD did not experience an unexpected or extreme wave of departures. Retirements were exactly as we projected at the beginning of the year. Resignations before pension eligibility are down more than 40% since 2022, and in 2025, we outpaced attrition by more than 800 officers. Our officers are the ones doing this work on the streets, but the direction of this department is set by its extraordinary leadership. I want New Yorkers to know that they are served by an incredible executive staff at the NYPD, including highly skilled civilian leaders and thoughtful and honorable uniformed chiefs led by our Chief of Department, Chief LaPetrie, our crime strategist extraordinaire. As someone who has been in and around the NYPD for 18 years, I can say without hesitation that this is the finest group of policing professionals that I have been privileged to work with. The historic reductions we've shared today did not happen by chance. They are the product of a department that confronts reality as it is, identifying the challenges in front of us, developing strategies to meet them, and executing those strategies with discipline and with precision. That approach is deliberate. It is precision policing, a data-driven, scalpel approach that focuses effort where they matter most. It means putting officers where crime is actually happening when it is happening and staying there long enough to make systemic change. But all of this is only possible because of the men and women of the NYPD. It shows up in the decisions that they make on the streets, in investigations carried to their conclusion, and in the quiet consistency required to hold the line across a city this large and this complex. I want to be clear. As the year turns, our crime-fighting posture remains unchanged. The standard we set for ourselves remains high, and the commitment to support the men and women who do this work remains absolute. With that, I will now turn it over to Mayor Mamdani. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It is a privilege to be here with you at One Police Plaza and to be surrounded by so many committed public servants here in the NYPD. I want to thank Commissioner Tisch for her leadership and Governor Hochul for her steadfast partnership with the city. I will not repeat the incredible statistics that the Commissioner just shared, but I do want to echo the human story that they tell. Because as impressive as these numbers are, we know that they capture something tangible, the lives New Yorkers live, the ways that our neighbors interact with our city, and the countless hours of unseen hard work by the men and women in this room and beyond it that have delivered this progress. When we say that murder went down by over 20% from last year, that is anything but abstract. Each of those percentage points adds up to dining room tables without an empty seat. Lives free from the dark cloud of grief, children that grow up with a parent at home. When we talk about the safest year on subways absent the pandemic years since 2009, we are talking about a city that is and feels safe to explore, where a young New Yorker from Inwood isn't afraid to ride a train to meet her friends in Flushing, where a senior citizen on the Upper West Side isn't reluctant to get on the subway to see a grandchild in Bushwick. These numbers, whether they represent fewer robberies or fewer victims of gun violence, mean a more vibrant, joyful city. It's measured in restaurants and bodegas that keep their doors open later, families that don't hurry home as soon as the light begins to fade from the sky. But make no mistake, none of this arrives by accident. Each of these markers of achievement is a testament to a police department that cares about this city and works with this city to remake this city. Thank you to those who are here at One Police Plaza and to those across our 5 boroughs for the work that you all do in making today possible. As we lead together, I want to see these numbers continue to drop, to continue to nurture the partnership between the NYPD and the communities across the city, and to empower our police force to focus on the serious crimes that they signed up to tackle. We are going to mend the frayed social safety net that fails so many of our neighbors, tackle the mental health crisis that causes so much pain, and continue to deliver public safety across our 5 boroughs. I want to say thank you again to everyone who worked so hard to bring us this day, and thank you for all of the work we will continue to do to lead together over the years to come. And with that, I will pass it over to our partner, our Governor, Kathy Hochul.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for reminding us of the humanity that is involved here when our men and women in uniform go out and save lives and prevent crimes and solve crimes. There are real people whose lives are not shattered. There's families not spending the holidays in an emergency room waiting for hopefully some positive news, or the continuation of therapy that's required, mental health and physical therapy when people are victims of crime. So yes, there's a very human story behind these numbers that we don't want to have lost, but these numbers are nothing short of extraordinary. I want to thank Commissioner Tisch for providing the leadership that this department has needed, and the executive team that responds to that leadership so forcefully, so successfully, and all the people who are out there on our streets and in our subways and our neighborhoods who now feel that sense of pride again of being a member of the NYPD. That is a direct tribute to you, your philosophy, your way you're empowering others to do what they know how to do, and I thank all of you for that. And so we can talk about the numbers again. I'm not going to repeat them all, but I do want to say these reductions in crime that we're talking about today, and we are, again, as a football fan, we are not spiking the football because we always know that something could change. But today is a milestone, something we could not have foreseen, I believe, 4 years ago when I first became governor. We were in the depths of a crime crisis throughout the nation, not just New York, not just New York City, but across the nation. But we were besieged by crime. Shootings had doubled in just a couple of years. Repeat offenders were routinely being sprung free out to commit crimes again. Thieves were ransacking our local businesses with impunity, and people just felt so unsafe. And it wasn't just our residents. The word was out among people who might visit from other states and other countries. Oh, it's a dangerous place, don't go there. That's what we are entering just a few four short years ago. So I also made a vow. I would take this on directly, with resources and with commitment. And I decided we needed to do a better job of aligning our state and city crime-fighting efforts because we had been operating as independent actors, but with the same objectives. It did not make sense to me. So I said we'll do everything in my power to restore safety and order to our communities. And we got to work, even statewide. I launched the first in the nation interstate gun interdiction task force. There are now 12 states, and working with the NYPD in New York, that share information, that track the iron pipeline, the flow of guns coming into our state, whether up 95 or up 81 from Pennsylvania, gun shows to our streets in the Bronx and in Syracuse. So we focused on this. Also, we had not properly invested in fighting crime. In my term as governor, we've invested $3 billion across the state, but significant numbers here in the city of New York, to assist, because it's asking a lot for localities to be able to use the latest crime technologies. We've invested in drone technology and license plate readers and all the other avenues that are expensive for locals to do, but the state steps in and we say we can help you with that, and I've been proud to announce that all over the state of New York. We also had addressed our criminal justice system and had common sense legal reforms. Stronger bail laws to keep repeat offenders off the streets. We now have stronger discovery laws to keep criminals from walking free literally on minor technicalities. We had a situation where 90% of domestic violence cases were being eliminated, that people make their case, they come and tell their horrible story to someone and repeat the anxiety and the pain, and they're tossed out by a judge on technicalities because of the way our law was written. No more is that the case. Stronger red flag laws, strongest in the nation. And I'm really proud of that, because when you can identify that someone's making threats to a fellow classmate or showing signs that they could do harm to themselves or others, we now as a society have to take action, not just law enforcement, but teachers and other people in the community. They come forward and we find out if there are guns available, and if yes, we will remove them from that individual. That is how we're preventing crimes. As I mentioned, we've equipped police with the best technology, more officers on the subway. What a difference this has made. I can't tell you how many people, and I walk the streets of New York every day, people come up to me and say, I don't worry about my daughter getting on the subway to go to school anymore, because I know the efforts that you and the city have made. And it was resources. It was money to support the overtime that was necessary. And in a short time, the National Guard, just to calm things down when the crimes were going up. But now the NYPD, the transit police, MTA are doing such an incredible job. So we've seized more guns, we've launched specialized units, and it's starting to pay off. Again, I'm not going through all the data. She stood here a long time. And she might need some more water soon. But I stand here with a heart full of gratitude. And I'm going to be using my next years in office, starting with our State of the State literally next week, to talk about our enhanced crime-fighting strategies and how we're also going to protect places of worship. We're going to change the law to protect places of worship, and we're going to talk about that next week. And tomorrow I'll be announcing our plan to confront the 3D printed ghost guns. This has been a real challenge for us not just in the city but across the state. It's the fastest growing firearm safety threat in the entire country. So point is, no matter how far we've come, we will remain vigilant, unrelenting in our mission to keep New Yorkers safe. And we'll continue to prove that a partnership like the likes of which we've not seen before is also the key to that success. And you can count on me on being that partner that's going to protect you, provide the resources you need to change the laws that need to be changed, and make sure that you have everything you need to do the incredible work that you do. So I'm here to say thank you to the NYPD, from our commissioner on down to the executive team, but certainly the people on the street that I always say hello to when I'm walking by, and just say thank you, because these are tough jobs. We should never forget that. And I thank our mayor for having the wisdom to continue this leadership, because the numbers are showing that when you put a strategy together, have the team to execute, put the resources behind it, we can keep New Yorkers safer. And that's what it's all about. Thank you very much.
Okay, folks, so the way this is going to work, we're going to do on-topic questions first about the 2025 crime stats. After that, we're going to take a quick peek at our NYPD's next lead, and then we'll do some off-topics for the governor mayor. Okay, we'll start with Dean first.
Two questions. First one for the mayor. When you look at these stats, is there anything you feel like you're going to change in regards to the previous administration? And also for the commissioner, people want to know if the NYPD is going to stay this course. So is there any changes you've seen about what works for the new mayor?
Our crime fighting strategy in New York City is working. Now, I am never satisfied with the status quo just because it's the status quo. We're always going to look for ways to sharpen and refine. But I think it's very clear that our approach in particular to violent crime in New York City and to subway crime in New York City has led to historic results. And I don't have any changes on the top of my head that I can think of to it at this time.
And I will add that there is much that these statistics cover, the incredible work that we've spoken about today, and I will also tell you that as the mayor of this city, in just the last 2 days, I have been on site for 2 5-alarm fires, one in the Bronx and one in Queens. And I also know that the work of the NYPD extends to being first responders in those moments as well, in ensuring that we are taking care of New Yorkers and delivering public safety in a wide variety of ways. So these are numbers and accomplishments to be celebrated, and as the commissioner said, they're also ones to be built on, because we will not rest until we make this the safest city it can be.
Commissioner, have you had any changes in regards to working with the mayor or in regards to the previous administration? Any changes there?
So I have worked now, you're my fourth mayor. Wait, Bloomberg? Yeah, third mayor. And every mayor has a different style, and I have worked with each one of them quite productively. The mayor and I will continue to meet on issues, meet on crime-fighting strategies, and I'm looking forward to those discussions. But no, at this time, there is no change planned to the crime-fighting strategy that has delivered historic results.
Have derided it as another form of broken windows policing that has racially disparate effects. How do you view the tactic? Have you spoken to the commissioner about the issue? And how do you see that tactic being used going forward?
Look, I think as the commissioner said, the two of us are in constant communication. And what New Yorkers deserve and what we are fully aligned on is the fact that we need to see genuine public safety across the city. And that is something that is felt when New Yorkers can walk through their neighborhood without fear or without concern. That is something that is felt when they see a city government that is addressing the fundamental concerns that actually underpins the misdemeanors and the minor crimes that we're speaking of. And that is going to be the focus not only of myself, but also of my entire city government.
I just want to add to that, the Quality of Life Division is by no means a return to broken windows policing. It was done in response to a doubling in the number of 311 complaints that we have received in New York City over a period of 4 years. Those are people from every neighborhood in the city calling the city for help on quality of life concerns. Now, they vary neighborhood to neighborhood, but one thing that is true across all of them is that there are quality of life problems. And so the Quality of Life Division was designed to make the NYPD more responsive to 311 in much the same way that historically we have been quite responsive to 311. So we're responding to noise complaints. We are moving abandoned vehicles that have taken up parking in front of someone's home for months. These are things that we had not historically been responsive to, and New Yorkers were begging us for help.
Charles, if I can ask about the gang database, you mentioned that there were 70 takedowns, and did the gang database contribute to those takedowns, and did that conflate with the mayor's intended direction for the department going forward?
So I have been very clear that the gang database is a tool that has helped us both in terms of fighting gun violence. Certainly when we have a shooting in the city, we use the gang database to anticipate where we may see retaliatory violence, and that has helped drive our gun violence down. But yes, it also contributed to the gang takedowns that have been so successful this year.
Does that conflate with the mayor's intended direction?
Yeah, Commissioner, what if anything changed with precision policing that is bringing about this commissioner on nearly every level?
Yeah, so a few things. First, we went all in on it. We had thousands of cops basically all year long, but particularly over the summer when we know that gun violence has historically surged, working overnight foot posts on the streets and in the neighborhoods where gun violence has been the most persistent problem. And those deployments have shown unbelievable results. But we also have better data and more refined systems than we have ever had in the past. And one of the things...
All right, folks, we're going to go now because Panthers on the Plus is about to be live in less than 5 minutes. We'll see you then.